Welcome to Chapter 2, Episode 4 of Financial Education for Pilots. In this episode, we will talk about budgeting. Because people starting off in this industry will come from various backgrounds and be at different stages in their lives, this episode will take a broad view at certain topics when it comes to budgeting. The first topic we will look at is dealing with bills and expenses. In today's world, it is difficult to stay on top of bills left and right, especially with some being automated and therefore easy to forget. Fortunately, programs such as Excel and online websites have made it easier to track and log finances. There are many websites online that provide budgeting spreadsheets to be downloaded for free. These spreadsheets are a general overview of what you can expect to bring in every month and how you allocate your money. Another suggestion would be to create an expense log for yourself and family. Although not many examples of this are provided online, a simple one can be created in Excel. This will force you to consciously look at how much money you are spending and on what items. For those that may forget to log expenses after they happen, there exist apps that accomplish such tasks. For example, the app Mint can be linked to your bank accounts to automatically log your expenses. Related to budgeting is setting aside money into a savings account. Although there are different rules of thumb as to how much should be set aside each paycheck, everyone's situation will be different. If you are single and at a major airline, the money set aside will be different than if you are married and have kids and starting off at a regional airline. Ideally, individuals should strive to set aside 10% of each paycheck into savings. The suggested method of doing that is as soon as your paycheck comes in, automatically transferring the money into your savings account. This will prevent any temptation to spend it as the days go by. For some, setting aside 10% will not be attainable. Raising a family and paying off student loans is difficult enough outside of other expenses one may have. It's not a problem at all if you cannot set aside any money for savings. The next topic we will look at is renting versus buying a home. There are some that say that renting is essentially throwing money away while buying a house is a sound investment. Although that is partially true, it's a bit more complicated than that. Essentially, this debate boils down to time, as in how long do you plan on being in your residence. Generally, 5 years is the cutoff between when you should buy a house versus renting one. Meaning if you plan on staying in the same house for over 5 years, it makes more sense to buy a house. If you do not plan on staying in your location for more than 5 years, renting proves to be the better option. This is because of the closing costs and real estate agent fees that come with buying and selling a house. Ultimately, those fees add up, and if you do not plan on staying in one location for too long, those fees eat into your investment. Renting also allows you to have the flexibility of moving, either from one part of town to the other or simply to another city, should you change bases or change airlines as a whole. Rent may prove to be a pretty expensive monthly cost, depending on what city you live in. Junior bases such as New York City can prove to be very costly for those just starting off. The best way, and what may seem obvious, to cut down on the cost is to live with roommates. Of course, this won't be possible for some, but if you are able to, the money saved by renting with others can go a long way. For example, let's take a look at New York City, which is a junior base for pilots starting off at many airlines such as Republic, JetBlue, and Delta. In 2020, the median rent for a studio apartment in Queens was $1,865. The median rent for a two-bedroom in the same area was $2,250, yielding a rent of $1,125 for one person and saving them $700 in the process. Simply by living with a roommate, the money saved aside may be enough to pay for student loans. Next, the cost of flight training is a significant sum, and almost every pilot will take out student loans in order to fund their flight training and/or education. For some, this may come to the tune of up to $200,000. Once schooling is finished, most loans will have to be paid back starting 6 months after the student graduates or finishes training. That time frame may come quick for some, and the realization of a big loan to pay back can be daunting. With how the aviation industry is structured, many of the entry-level flying jobs, from flight instructing to Part 135 to regional airlines, will pay in the $20,000 to $50,000 range. This is not much for those who have to juggle rent, car payments, and everyday expenses. Pile on student loans, and it is extremely easy to be overwhelmed. While there's no formula for how to get rid of student loans overnight, small steps can be taken to tackle paying loans off faster and make the goal of being done with student loan payments more attainable. For those who have taken federal loans out, a service called the Income Driven Repayment Plan is available. This plan will allow you to reduce the monthly payments required. This will push your loan payback timeframe from the standard 10 years to a bit further out. However, it will make paying off those student loans while your entry income is low more achievable. If you have private student loans and you have to pay a higher interest student loan, look to refinance your loan once you have some credit built up. This is because when you initially took out the loan, your credit history may have been brief or non-existent. By refinancing, you can show the lenders your good credit history and lock in a lower rate. If you have the ability to pay extra, log into your loan level payment and target the smallest balance. This is available for both private and federal loans and will allow you to reduce your payments over time, knocking out the smaller loans first. In addition to targeting your smaller loan and paying extra is to tell your loan servicer to do it for the current month. Otherwise, the extra amount will be applied to next month's payment, which will push the due date back, which is not something you want. It is worth noting that unfortunately there are scam services out there that offer debt forgiveness. These third-party scams pressure individuals to act fast and provide confidential information that may be used for identity fraud or stealing your money. Be aware of these scams, as loan forgiveness from government programs take years of qualifying payments before loans are forgiven. Getting one's finances in order takes time and can be overwhelming, especially with the seemingly endless amount of bills and expenses that come our way. By taking small steps each day, we can ultimately take control of our financial situation.